on the planet are members of a cooperative. So I think that's pretty impressive. So here's a question for everyone. You can use the chat or you can raise your hand if you like. I'm curious to see if anyone can name a cooperative other than the Canadian Musicians Cooperative. Does anybody know of any cooperatives? Do we see the chat? Bain Housing Co-op. Yes, amazing. ACTRA. Not that I know of. I've never heard of ACTRA, but that doesn't mean every day. This is the best part of my job. Every day I find new cooperatives. Let me look it up. Oh, it's an actors union. Interesting. Oh yeah, yeah, I think it is. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you very much, Maya. I'm gonna look up some more information on that. I just learned a new one. All right. Anybody else? Credit unions are co-ops, right? Yes, they are. Yes, very good, Brandon. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Maya. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up. That's amazing. Okay, well, we'll stop there, but you know what? Kudos to everyone. Well done, because I'm impressed if anyone can name even one, and I just got three and I learned a new one. So that's pretty amazing. Okay, so let's do a little co-op quiz. So I know this is going to be tricky, but let's try to use the chat if we can. And I'm gonna give you a couple options here, and we're gonna see if we can guess which one is the co-op. So our first contestants here, we have the Green Bay Packers NFL team, and we have the Minnesota Vikings, another NFL team. So one of these is a cooperative. So let's see if we can use the chat. And we'll see if you can guess whether it's Green Bay or Minnesota that is the cooperative. Oh, well, let's see how we do with this. Green Bay, Green Bay. So I got a lot of Green Bays. I got some Vikings. All right, good, good. Okay, looks like all right. And okay, I'm gonna do the big reveal here. Yeah, it's Green Bay. Awesome. So most of you guessed Green Bay. Amazing. That's fantastic. Green Bay is a cooperative. It's the only cooperative football team in the NFL. And they're the most successful team. They've won the most titles. They're the only team to have never been sold. And they have over 360,000 shareholders. So it's pretty amazing fan-owned team. And I'm going to throw this question out here too. So Green Bay is the only cooperative NFL team, and the NFL Association actually has banned any more cooperative teams from joining the league. So does anybody have any thoughts on why that might be the case? If they're the most successful team, they've never been sold. And if you look at their community, the community of Green Bay. It's a very small community, and somehow they're able to support this huge NFL team. Why on earth would they not allow more cooperative teams? Okay, so we have too many teams. Yeah, that's a good guess. Co-ops are harder to exploit for profit. Yeah, that's probably the most likely answer. And inconvenient for money and harder to control. Yes, because in order for Yes, yes, I agree with that comment too. So yeah, I mean, I think the idea is that co-ops are autonomous. They're run by their members, they're owned by their fans. So that team is never going to be sold. Nobody else stands to make any money or profit off that team other than the people that are involved with it, right? The community, they have a charitable foundation, the team itself. So the NFL Association, they're not really down for that. So they said, no, no, we don't want any more cooperative teams. There are a couple Canadian ones. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Saskatchewan Roughriders are also fan owned. Okay, our next contestant. So we have two hardware stores here. We have Home Depot and Home Hardware. So let's see what we think about this. Which one do you think is the cooperative? Okay. Okay, so we've got some home hardwares. We had a Home Depot. Where's, oh, home hardwares. Okay. All right. Okay, so it looks like most people are choosing home hardware, and that is correct. Oh, come on. It is actually home hardware. So somebody made a comment that I don't know, but hardware is always going out of business. And so that may be true. So home hardware is a cooperative. They don't really make a big deal about it. It's hard to even find that on their website. But how it works is each independent home hardware store is owned by like an independent person. So I can open a home hardware store myself, then I can join the cooperative. So really it's up to me to run that store by myself. I get to make most of the decisions. And what I get from being part of the cooperative is I get collective marketing, I get wholesale distribution, I get discounts for bulk buying. So I have access to the purchasing power that home hardware has and other supports like that. But unlike a franchise, I still have control over the way I run my own store. I don't have to use the suppliers and the vendors they tell me to. I do have choices otherwise. And also, I am represented and their board of directors. So I can run for the board of directors. I can go to their annual meetings. I can vote. I can actually have a say and I can share in the profits as well. So a little bit different from a franchise operation. Okay, and we have one more for you here. So who's the co-op? So we have Climate Care, so they work, they're HVAC professionals, and we have Lennox, who's in the same line of work. They provide heating and air conditioning services in Canada. So let's see, which one do you think is the co-op? Okay, so we have a couple Lennox. Lennox. Oh, Lennox is a sweep here, I think. All right, okay. All right. Lennox keeps rolling in. Okay, so it's overwhelmingly. We have Alter Percy, well done, because it's surprise, it's Climate Care. So Climate Care is actually a cooperative. So again, kind of similar to Home Hardware. It's another business that most people probably think is a franchise, because if you've lived in different places or visited different places, and you might see climate care vans driving around in different places. But all Climate Care locations are again independently owned. So I can own one, I can own one with a partner, I can have a group of people. And what Home Hardware, the cooperative, does is it provides me again with that brand recognition, with support and guidance when it comes to financing, to purchasing power. They give HR support. And again, they have meetings every quarter. They elect a board of directors from within all those owners. They're the ones that make decisions. So Climate Care provides support to independent workers all across Canada to help them run their own businesses in their communities and take some of that burden off them of being a small business operator. So they kind of get the best of both worlds. They're an independent business owner, but they get kind of the backup power of a bigger corporation, or in this case, a bigger cooperative. So well done, everyone. Thanks for playing along. So there are cooperatives in every single sector. So any kind of business you could possibly think of can be a cooperative. So here we have everything from football teams, we have art galleries, we have agriculture represented, we have solar share renewable energy, we have a movie theater that's close to where I live, the Aaron Theater. We have Cooperators Insurance, Desjardins Financial Services. So in Ontario and around the world, anything you can think of can be a cooperative. So literally from I've seen archaeological cooperatives, architecture, there's a lot of tech cooperatives, video game design. Anytime you have a group of people that want to work together, right, that have similar goals, that can benefit from sort of sharing those resources or scaling their business, can be a cooperative. And again, it can be as small as 4 owners. Home Hardware has 1,100 owners. Green Bay has 53,000, or sorry, 537,000 owners. So I think that's the shares because you can own up to 4 shares if you're a Green Bay member. And in Ontario, again, they run through every industry and every single size. Again, we have renewable energy, information technology, retail, healthcare, housing, food and agro, you name it, it can be a cooperative. And we see them everywhere in every single sector. So again, why do people start co-ops? Well, often they're looking for access to products and services, access to products and services that either the government um, isn't providing or private sector isn't providing. So rather than just saying, well, I guess that's it, we're never going to have access to these products or services in our area, groups of people get together and say, well, hey, why don't we just create this for ourselves? And we see that in southwestern Ontario, there are 4 telecommunications cooperatives. So they provide phone, internet services. And again, they started because they were in rural areas. And the phone companies just did, this was back in the day, did not even go out there. They literally had no phones. And then when, cable came out and everything, nobody would bother putting it out there because it wasn't worth it. So all these groups of people got together and pooled their money and their resources and said, let's deliver this, let's create this service for ourselves. So in that way, it's a really empowering business model because you are really working together with groups of people to provide something that you need. Again, people create co-ops to create jobs for themselves, to expand their business, and share resources and reduce operating costs. So cooperatives are a great way to share community. So again, they fill gaps in services that aren't being met. And they provide ownership to people who want or need the services that they're offering. So if you're a member of a cooperative, you have a say in how that cooperative is run. So in that way, cooperatives really listen to the people that are using their services. And cooperatives as a business do a better job of reflecting the needs of the people using the business, right? Reflecting the needs of their members. They're innovative, they're able to pivot, they evolve to meet the changing needs of members. They listen to what their customers want or their workers want, whoever their owner groups are. They listen to them and respond and change the business accordingly. So it's not just about bottom line with cooperatives. It's about really reflecting the needs of the people that are using this business. And co-ops are value-driven businesses. So just like I talked about way back in Rochdale and in all the communities and cultures all around the world that just live cooperatively, those ideas of mutual aid, of people helping each other, of working together for the greater good, operating ethically, those values and principles ring true in cooperatives. And unlike some other corporations, it's not just a branding tactic or a marketing campaign. It's really built into the DNA, and that's through the cooperative principles. There's actually requirements that when you start a cooperative, you need to have a way for the members to to vote on issues, to share their voice. You have to give back to your community. You have to help each other as cooperatives. So all those amazing things are built right into the DNA of a cooperative. And the great news is that cooperatives actually have higher success rates. So when we look at studies in Canada, those studies are mirrored in the UK. They get the same kind of results. Co-ops actually are twice as likely to succeed as other types of businesses. And that's sort of long and short term. So these studies looked at around 5 years. But if you look at 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, co-ops have a higher success rate across the board. And there's been research done in Canada as well by the federal government showing that cooperatives as small and medium-sized businesses last longer than other types of businesses as well. So they're a very sustainable, resilient business model. So co-ops work really well for niche products or services where needs aren't currently being met. So again, I've touched on this before, but if you're starting a cooperative, really probably what you're doing is looking to fill a gap somewhere in service or create something for yourselves to use. So they work really well in kind of niche areas or specific areas or industries that might be overlooked. So let's take a look at cooperative structure and I'll give you some examples. So cooperatives can be uh, started in different ways and they can have different owner groups. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So, along with sole proprietorships or partnerships, there are three types of corporations in Ontario. So there's business corporations, so like a for-profit corporation, um, a non-profit corporation, and then a cooperative corporation. So if you look at this diagram, most corporations share three of these four aspects. Most corporations have a board of directors who oversee the strategy and make those high-level decisions around the direction of the cooperative or the business. The board of directors typically hires the management team, right? So that top leadership tier. And then that management team, if there's staff needed, they take care of hiring and supervising staff to do the day-to-day functions of the business. So cooperatives often have those, again, depending on the size and the purpose and the structure. But cooperatives may have they all have a board of directors. They may have a manager, they may have staff. They also have members. So, and the members are that kind of key difference. So the members are the owners of the cooperative. They're the group that is influencing the direction, has that voting power, and they're typically the group that's benefiting the most from the cooperative. Okay. So when we talk about owners and members of a cooperative, it's really the same thing. So many cooperatives, some refer to their owners as owners, but often you'll hear cooperatives refer to their owner group as members. And that's because owners aren't just investors, or they're not just customers, or they're not just users of the business. They take a more active role in the cooperative. So that's why we use the term members. So there's different types of cooperatives. So we like to classify co-ops into four main groups. These are the most popular ones. There's a few other kinds, but we typically look at consumer, worker, producer, and multi-stakeholder. Who owns and controls the co-op really defines the type of co-op it is. So let's take a look. So consumer co-ops, just like the name would imply, these are cooperatives that are owned by their customers. So the consumers, the people that are buying the products or the services. So if you want to sell products or services and you want your customers to be involved in the business in some way, pay a membership fee and get benefits from using your business, probably a consumer co-op is what you're looking for. Sorry. Some examples of consumer cooperatives are daycares or childcare, credit unions, and grocery stores. Housing cooperatives are also consumer cooperatives. So anytime you have the owner group that are the ones that are using the services, that's going to be a consumer cooperative. And then here's an example in the music industry. So Deep Roots Music Cooperative is in Nova Scotia, and their mandate is to present concerts. They nurture local musicians, support other arts organizations and community projects. And they also create an annual festival every year, and it's the Deep Roots Music Festival. So they open up membership to their community, and they have welcome volunteers as well. So in this way, the people that are using those services, that are going to the concert, that are benefiting from these services, whatever capacity you're in, they're the members of the Deep Roots Music Cooperative. So another kind of cooperative is a worker co-op. And again, the name, the owner group is in the name. So these cooperatives are owned by the staff that actually work at the cooperative. So if you are looking to create a job for yourself and you'll be doing the work yourselves, probably a worker co-op is the model that you're going to use. And examples of worker co-ops. We have a craft brewery. So in London, there's a London Brewing Co-op. It's a worker co-op. Haifa is an IT and tech-based cooperative. Um, and Home Care Workers Cooperative in Peterborough and Durham is also a worker co-op. So they're a group of PSWs that got together and they started their own business. So here's an example of a worker co-op in the music industry. So here's a music store in Massachusetts. And this music store was downtown. It was a beloved music store and it was open for 40 years. It was operated, it was a sole proprietorship and it was owned and operated by one person. But he had a lot of staff that worked there for a really long time, and they were really like a hub of the community. So when he decided to retire, first of all, the workers were a little bit nervous about what was going to happen. Was somebody new going to buy this business, and were they going to change the culture, the work culture, and were they going to change the relationship with the customers and all the things that they had built over the years? Would they just buy it and close the store? Um, so they decided that they were going to try to buy the business together. So they talked to the owner, and the owner supported that and actually worked with them and created a transition plan, which made it easy for everyone. And so now the staff own collectively the Downtown Sounds music store. So they were able to keep it running. Um, and these kind of business succession plans to cooperatives work really well because really what you have is a group of staff who work really well together, right? Know how the business is run. You have a great customer base in your community, and they're able to assume ownership of the business without just one person having to get a loan, without somebody now having to be the boss over everyone else when they've all sort of worked together equally all this time. So it's really a great opportunity for employees to take over an ownership of a business that they're really invested in. Here's another example. So the New York Music Co-op is a music school, and it's where working musicians and music instructors created a business that allows them to run the studio the way they choose, right? So again, it's like they were working for other music schools, having to follow their protocols for teaching, not making great wages, right? Because a significant portion of those hourly fees were going to the franchise. So they were like, you know what? We want to teach music our own way. We think we know how to do this. So they got together and they started their own school. So not only now do they have more control over the hours that they work, um, the way they teach, but they also have a program to give back to the community. So they provide low-income families with subsidized lessons and workshops as well. So they really get to have control over the way they want to run their business and really feel good about the work that they do. Next, we have producer co-ops. So their producer co-ops are started by people who produce similar types of goods or services. And the co-op itself may process, they may market, distribute the products and services of their members. So if you are supplying raw materials to make products, like maybe you're in agriculture, you're a dairy farmer, you have some kind of um, crop, or maybe it's finished products that you contribute. So we see a ton of art galleries that are producer co-ops. We see it in the music business as well with record labels and things like that. Um, and if you want to share the costs of production or distribution or marketing, a producer co-op is the way to go. So we have a few examples here. And we also have um, another kind of cool example. I think this one might be one of the best names for an opera, an opera orchestra, sorry, an orchestra ever. It's Mick Opera, and it's in Scotland. Um, and it was formed in 2012 by musicians from the Orchestra of the Scottish Opera because they loved the work that they did. But they also wanted to expand a little bit and spread their wings a little bit and do some more diverse work. Um, and so they kind of created a sub orchestra, the Mick Opera, and so that they could do projects that they were really passionate about and kind of grow their creativity and kind of bring that spark back. So again, it's, a group of people that come together, they all share the workload, um, and they're able to work together, sharing the same goals. And then we have multi-stakeholder co-ops. So these are co-ops that are owned by more than one type of member. We see these co-ops a lot in Quebec. They're called solidarity cooperatives. And really what it is you have different stake classes of stakeholders. So you might have workers, customers, and service providers that all have a couple seats on the board of directors. They all make decisions together. They all work at the same business. They all have the same goals at the end of the day, right? But their individual goals might be a little bit different, or their individual motivations might be a little bit different. So if you look at Stocksy United, so they're a stock image sharing cooperative, and they were started in Vancouver. And they have different classes of members. So you have the artists represented, you have the staff represented, and then you have the founding members represented. So the founding members want to make sure that the cooperative continues to operate with its intended purpose, stays true to its roots. And then you have the staff who are, managing all the operations of the business and have that insight. So they're able to contribute. And then you have the artists as well, right, who are providing the product that Stocksy is selling. And they typically make between, I think it's 45 and 70% on uh, commission on the work that they sell. And in other image sharing platforms, it's more like 10, 20%. So it's like a huge, huge difference between Stocksy and other organizations. And again, that's because, there's not a person at the top that's saying, I want to create this business to make money for myself. It's about, different people coming together to say, like, we all want to do this and we all want to succeed at it. So let's share the profit more equitably. Let's share the workload so that we can all succeed together. And here's another example of that same multi-stakeholder model, the Cape Breton Music Industry Cooperative. So it's a nonprofit organization developed to grow and support Cape Breton's music industry, and they offer a lot of the same services as the Canadian Musicians Cooperative. And they have three different levels of membership, a support member, an emerging artist, and a professional artist. So there's different benefits for each level of membership, and there's a different fee, annual fee for each level of membership. And they're able to provide, services that are tailored for those different classes of membership. Okay, so some things to consider when starting a cooperative. So these are just some things to think about in the structure that are unique to cooperatives. So all members of the co-op get one vote on important decisions for the co-op. So one of the cooperative principles is the idea of one member, one vote. So can anybody think of any potential challenges with a business model that works like that? Any thoughts on that? Let's see. It takes longer to decide things. Yes, Jamie, thank you. Yeah, it can take longer to decide things. Yep. Anything else? Can
Oh, I
anyone
have.
think? Oh, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking maybe like underrepresented voices are like not heard as often or like aren't, you know, they aren't brought like underrepresented people might not be like heard, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point, Vanessa. You're right. Yeah, because you might have pockets of groups that are not represented when it comes to sitting at the board table or making those big decisions. And I think that's something that cooperatives need to be really mindful of, right? In making sure that they are creating a culture where they're ensuring that all voices are represented at the table and coming up with other mechanisms to do that. That's a great point, Vanessa. And to Jamie's point too, yeah, it can take longer to decide things. And again, depending on the cooperative, and they're all a little bit different. It's not a one size fits all thing. And typically what happens is in a smaller cooperative, like maybe a worker cooperative, usually you're not going to have like more than 10, 15 people at the most in a worker cooperative because then it just gets too difficult, right, to make those decisions. But typically what happens is most or all the people will sit on the board of directors or on a committee in a smaller cooperative. And just like anything else, they'll kind of divide up areas of responsibility, right? So they might have committees that handle finances, that handle HR, that handle marketing, different areas like that, member relations, um, and then they can go and do the work that they need to do and then come back at the board meetings, share information, and then they're able to make decisions a little bit more efficiently. And that's why you see as well that in really big cooperatives or really big credit unions, they're electing a board of directors, and then that board of directors represents the membership. So they're going to make those decisions, because if you had to check with, all 1,000 members or 100,000 members, yeah, it would take a long time um, to decide things. Can you think of any advantages of having a system like this where, you have a mechanism or a mandate to allow members or owners to vote on decisions? What do you think are the positive things? Any ideas? So everyone feels like they get a say in what happens. Yeah. Yeah. That's great, Alyssa. Yeah. Provides options for people looking for something different from what they're used to. Yes, Thomas. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you know what? A lot of times when I talk to people about cooperatives, especially if they don't know a lot of them beforehand, it's really tough for people to wrap their head around this model because it's really not something that we're used to. We're used to having a boss that tells us what to do, right? Or we're the boss and we tell other people what to do. So the idea that you might be working in an organization that has a flat hierarchy rather than, or like a flat power balance rather than a hierarchy where someone is just making all the decisions, it can be a little bit difficult for people to wrap their head around. But yeah, Alyssa, getting different perspectives, that's the whole idea, right? It's like you're creating a business that is really based on the needs and wants of the people that are using the business. And I think that's part of the reason why cooperatives are so sustainable, why they last longer than other businesses, why they're more successful, because they're genuinely drawing on the experience of their members. They're asking for input. They're getting those different perspectives, and they're giving people a way to weigh in. And often cooperatives will share profits or some kind of benefits with their members. There's always some kind of member benefit. So you can have a not-for-profit or a nonprofit cooperative where, they're not able to give dividends or share that profit at the end of the year with their members, but that money goes back into the cooperative to make that co-op more user friendly, to have more features, to offer more products and services, right? So your members are benefiting in that way. And often they'll give discounts and things like that. And when you have a for-profit cooperative, you're actually allowed to share that profit at the end of the year with your members. And I really think about that in terms of credit unions. So I bank with a credit union, and yes, I still have to pay service fees every month, and I don't get my mortgage for free or anything like that. But I know that at least the money that I'm paying goes back into my community. It's not getting funneled out to, big shareholders or shareholders all over the world. It's literally being used in my community to lend out to other people, to support charities and to support nonprofits. And at the end of the year, my credit union gives me money back. They share their profit with me. So, I mean, I can't imagine a bank saying, "Oh no, we made too much money this year, so we're going to give it back. We're going to share it with all of our customers." And that's literally what most credit unions do. Yeah, that's right, Jamie. I mean, most people don't know that. So Jamie's saying that they're with a credit union and they had no clue. So you should call your credit union and see. Usually they have a little share account, and then the profit sharing will go back into that, and then after a certain amount of time you can take it out. But I think it's a pretty cool thing, right? And I can actually go, if they're going to merge with another credit union, I can actually go and vote to see whether or not, I want that to happen. So, with a big cooperative, it's a little more arm's length, but I still have a say, right? I still share in the profits, and I know that the money I spend there goes back into my community, which I think is a pretty good thing. Um, so directors, so back to governance. Oh, sorry, do we have a hand up? Yeah, go ahead. Alenia? Hi, do you have your, no? Oh, no, you just hit your button? Okay. All right. Okay, so with in terms of membership, so all members get one vote. Directors are elected from within the membership, and they have to be active members of the cooperative. So unlike a shareholder corporation, where often their board is, majority shareholders, with a cooperative, you actually have to be a member of the co-op. So how do you think, does anybody have any thoughts on how they think that might that how that might benefit the cooperative, or why that might be a good thing to have your board be made up of the owner group or the users of the cooperative? How do you think that could help or be a good thing? Any ideas? Let's see. Decisions are made in their best interest. Yeah, that's great. And mutual understanding. Yeah, you may feel better represented because they're just like you. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Three fantastic answers, right? Just, when you're making decisions as a board member of a cooperative, you're making it based on the best interests of the cooperative and its members, right? All those people just like you, right? You've got that lived experience. Um, Alyssa talking about you may feel better represented because they're like you. They understand the unique problems of your industry. They understand the user experience, right? What it's like to use the cooperative and be part of it. So they bring a much deeper perspective or a different perspective. They're more invested, right, in the cooperative. So can you think on the other side, can you think of any maybe potential challenges with drawing from your membership um, to serve on your board of directors? Do you think there might be any negative aspects to that or any challenges encountered because of that? Any ideas? Lots of eyes and responsibility on you. Yes. Yeah, that's true. Alyssa, yeah, you're in the hot seat, right? People might be coming to you as a board member now and expecting you to take more action. Um, and I think, that's okay. It can be tough and it can be challenging, but I think it's a great growth opportunity and it can really help you gain skills on, conflict resolution and sort of leadership. Sometimes a third party can be helpful mediating when any difficulties arise. Yeah, that's a great point. So thank you for that comment. And yeah, sometimes it can be challenging. You have personalities conflicting. Sometimes you're a little too close to the business, right? And maybe you lose your perspective a little bit. And that's why it's important for cooperatives to provide training and education for their board and support so that the board members really have the tools um, and develop the skills to be impartial, to understand the rules, the regulations, the bylaws, right? Their responsibilities and their role. And sometimes in larger co-ops, it can be challenging because it can get pretty complex, right? If you look at a big credit union. So sometimes it can be hard to find board members that really have all those skills. But again, we fall back to the cooperative principles. And one of those is training and education. Um, but yeah, it's always good to think about both sides of the issue. And in terms of governance, lastly, cooperatives must hold an annual meeting for all members at least every 15 months. So that means that, at least, usually once a year, cooperatives will hold an annual meeting and they'll let their members know how they're doing. They'll give them financial updates, let them know the strategy and plans for the year ahead, exciting developments and things that they've accomplished over the year. And again, it's part of that transparency and accountability piece with a cooperative that you really let everybody know what's going on and how you're doing and get your members involved and understanding more about the cooperative. So when we think about governance in a cooperative, and governance is just a fancy word for who makes the decisions and how. So the board of directors decide on the direction of the business, on the strategy. If you're a working board, so if you're a smaller co-op or you're a startup, or maybe you're a worker co-op, probably you're going to have to do more than just, make decisions and set strategy and attend meetings. You're probably going to actually have to do some hands-on work in the meantime. Um, the board is responsible for hiring and overseeing the management staff, and they're responsible for setting the policies for the co-op as well. So these are the 7 cooperative principles. So all co-ops around the world, no matter how big or small, and no matter what industry you're operating in, every single co-op in the world follows these same 7 principles. And we often lose people here because it's really tough to wrap your head around a business that has a set of principles that they abide by. Um, but cooperatives do this voluntarily. And some of the principles um, speak to the structure of the cooperative, like voluntary and open membership. So that means that if you're a cooperative, you can't force people to join your cooperative, and you can't keep them there against their will. If they want to leave the cooperative, they can. So that just means you have to set your cooperative up in a way that helps people understand how they become a member and then how they leave the cooperative and what happens when they do so. Democratic member control, that's the one member, one vote rule. So again, that informs the structure of the cooperative, saying that you've got to set it up in a way that gives your members a way to vote, to elect directors or vote on big issues. So the first 4 principles really speak to that structure. So it helps you set up your business in a way that means it's operating cooperatively. And then the last 3 principles, the education, training, and information, the cooperation among cooperatives, and then concern for community, those speak to the social purpose or the social impact of a cooperative, because there's always some social impact component to a cooperative business. So education, training, and information sharing, that means training your board of directors, right? So they have the skills to run the cooperative. Um, in a sustainable way. That means educating your members of the cooperative so that they can be the best members they can be, so that they know what their responsibilities are, what their role is in the co-op, and they know whether they get profit sharing. They understand all those parts of the cooperative, and cooperation among cooperatives. That principle talks about cooperatives working together, right? So we help each other, we support each other whenever we can, we share information and resources. And then lastly is concern for community. So cooperatives uh, they have a mandate to help their members, to help the wider community, and to give back. So you'll see in any cooperative, there's always a way that they give back to the community. And cooperatives, this is a bit in the weeds, but cooperatives are regulated under their own act. So they're kind of regulated separately. They have their own rules that they need to follow. And when you incorporate as a cooperative, so when you register your cooperative as a business with the government, as you have to do, um, that means it's now a separate entity, just like any other corporation, which is great because that means that members are not personally liable for the cooperative. So if you have a sole proprietorship or you have a partnership, your personal assets can be at risk if the business fails or gets into financial trouble. But with a cooperative, because it's a corporation, your personal assets would never be at risk. So that's a great thing. So if you want to open a business with a group of people, cooperatives are a great way to do it. They give you some structure and they make sure that your own personal assets are not at risk. So how do people use the cooperative model to overcome challenges in the music business? So let's take a look at some examples. So these are all cooperative businesses working in the music industry. And there are many, many, many more examples all around the world. So all these businesses are designed in a way that gives the people that use the business the most possible benefits. So these are all businesses that have been created by people who share similar goals. They all want the same things, and they've opened up businesses together, not to make millions of dollars for outside investors, or not to build a company up and then sell it to the highest bidder, and not just to benefit themselves, um, which are all typical reasons that people start up a business. So these businesses are different because their primary purpose is to create benefits um, that benefit themselves collectively and as a community. And they do this by, again, sharing ownership, decision-making power, making sure the business and decisions are made to benefit all the members. They provide access to services where there isn't any. They provide peer support, profit sharing, all things like that. So we have everything from music schools to radio stations to record labels to, support um, services, everything you can imagine. And we'll take a look at a few specific examples. So there's lots of cooperative music labels around the world. Um, and here's two examples. So Root Fire Cooperative is a cooperative based in California, and it's been around since 2015. So what they do is provide interest-free loans to independent artists, and they help them avoid using traditional record labels and giving up potentially control of their music. And they put that control of the music and the revenue back into the artist's own hands. So they've released 12 albums, and one has been nominated for a Grammy, um, which is kind of cool. They provide interest-free loans and other services that allow artists to maintain 100% ownership of their music and develop revenue streams and build a foundation for long-term growth. Um, so they don't take any portion of an album's profits. They only recoup the funds that are invested. And again, they never ask for ownership of the music itself. And it's a reggae-based music, and it was created, it's a non-profit, and it was created with another uh, music group called Ineffable Music Group, um, and really intended, again, to help emerging artists create music and avoid handing over ownership of their music. And then Soul City Music Cooperative is actually in Windsor, Ontario. So it's fairly new. It's been around since 2020. And it's co-founded by Windsor singer-songwriters Mike Hargreaves and Chrissy Cochran. And again, the label takes no percentage of its artists' earnings or rights. And instead, it fosters sustainable, self-managed music careers through mentorship, solidarity, and skill sharing. So again, two pretty cool examples of music labels doing things a little bit differently and focused on the artist, not just on exploiting the artist, right, for their own advantages. So I love this co-op. I think it's super cool. So this is an example again of partnerships, right? So how you got to be smart and you got to be efficient and work together. So this is the Luthier's Co-op, and this is in Massachusetts. Again, so they have a couple music-based co-ops in Massachusetts. So they must be pretty co-op minded and musical. So the Luthier's Co-op it's a full service instrument sales and repair shop. So by day, it's this very cool music shop, and they have luthier services. They sell instruments and the whole nine yards. And then at night, actually in the afternoon, the backstage bar opens and it serves food and drinks and has an entertainment venue. So you can book They have live shows. They have open mic nights each week, karaoke, jazz showcase, all kinds of things. So I just think it's a really interesting way to run a co-op where you have all these different skills, all these different needs together. And it's super smart to have like a music store and then a live music venue and then a bar and restaurant all in the same location. So I think that's a really, really cool example. And I think if you do any kind of a dive into co-ops, you'll start seeing these really cool examples of, again, people working together. Maybe they have different skills, a little bit different interests, but looking on how those all click together, right? To aid everybody and to provide benefits to everybody. So I think it's a really cool example. Um, there's always talk about streaming services, right? And how exploitive they are, and you can't make a living, relying on streaming services, certainly. So here's two examples of cooperatives that are doing things a little bit differently. So we have Resonate. So they're based in the UK, but they have artists from all around the world. And they get at least a penny per stream. So that's about 70% of the revenue that's generated, as opposed to Spotify, which I'm sure probably if you're a musician, you've probably looked at it at some point, but it's like around 0.003 cents per stream. And then the Pack Music Co-op is actually in Australia, and it's specifically designed for local unsigned artists, and 40% of the revenue goes directly to artists. So it's still in the kind of beta phase, still in development, but the idea was having a platform for, local-ish, right? Regional platform for musicians, emerging musicians to get their music heard. So again, I think it's a really cool example, a really creative example of people getting together to say, like, what do we need? How can we help each other and support each other? Yeah. Yeah, I believe it does, Justin. When I look at it, I see there's Canadian artists on there. Um, and I see when I looked it up today, it looks like they're pausing their memberships right now. So it's still like it's still running and you can still use it. Um, but as far as I know, it's open to artists and there's no they have kind of a different model of paying out revenue and there's no fee to sign up as an artist to Resonate. And then sorry, go. Um yeah, there's no fee. As far as I read, there's no fee to get on their platform. And then what happens is if somebody subscribes to your music, it's like a pay per play system where, if they listen to it X amount of times, then they buy that um song and then they can listen to it after that. So yeah, it's very, very cool. So keep an eye on them, Justin, because I'm not sure if they're just revamping their model or maybe their website. But they're still active, but it looks like they're not accepting new members. So they might be doing some reorganization. But definitely check it out. It's a very cool. Resonate Cooperative. Mhm. Y- Yeah, yeah. And again, it shows you, and like, when I talk to some of the tech co-ops, like the open source things that they're doing and all these cool things that they're doing, like I could really see an opportunity for us, for musicians to create something similar to that. I don't think it's unachievable. Um, I think we've got to, it's one of those cases where we've got to flip the script a little bit and create our own solution. Okay, next we have whoops. So next we have Group Muse and their cooperative event platform. So I think there's a couple in Canada as well. And I know I just saw um I just read about one of them, but I can't think of the name. But there is one called Gig Linked, I believe, where it's basically a system, right, where musicians can sign up on the platform that they're available in certain areas to play a show, and then hosts can go on and book a show. They're smaller scale gigs typically. So Group Muse is sort of the same idea, and Group Muse does, again, operate internationally. So it started in the States, but it does operate throughout North America. So that's really what it does. It's a worker-owned, musician-led co-op, and artists can sign up and they can let people know, what area they're available in, and then hosts can go on and they can book a gig for themselves. They can book a gig at in their home, at a park, a community space, wherever they want to or have permission to. So again, it's a way for, um, it doesn't have to be all or nothing with musicians, right? And it's a way for musicians to have a little bit of control, and make some fair uh, compensation for their work and provide opportunities. So connecting people that are looking for live music with musicians that are willing to provide that. And when I did look it up, I saw that there was some musicians in Toronto that are booking. So it's definitely here in Canada. Again, it's musician led. It's driven by the needs of musicians. There's no investors or there's nobody that's making a profit off of this. It's literally created for musicians by musicians as a way um, to to sort of create opportunity um, for musicians. So another cool example. So I think that's it for the presentation portion. So I'm happy to take any questions or have some discussion. Love to hear any thoughts anyone has. Could anybody see themselves in like using an opportunity like this for to reach some of the goals that you may have in your careers? Like, is this resonating with anyone? Is this making sense?
Yeah, like I think this was really this really resonated with me because, you know, as you go through school, or like you go through university and stuff, you're not really taught about like what options there are besides, the standard ones, right? So yeah, before like this presentation, I didn't really fully understand like what a cooperative was, even though we're all in a cooperative ourselves. And so like I think it's really like comforting to hear that there are, cooperatives out there that are trying to like, bring you value or like trying to help you to the best of your abilities. And like you can bring yourself as part of the cooperative as well and like get something in return. And yeah, I don't know exactly how I can use that in the future, but I feel like there are definitely times where all of us could benefit from like a cooperative later down the line.
Mhm. Especially in, when you're working in a creative industry like this, because it's really difficult. Either you're working for someone else, like is often the case, right? You're working for sort of a big corporation or you're working for some kind of big entity, right? Or you're part of that big machine. And your voice often isn't heard, right? And you sort of have to go along with things. Or when you branch out on your own, it can be really difficult, right? Like you're kind of an island, you're out there by yourself. You've got to juggle all these and know all these different skills. It can be pretty stressful. So just to know somewhere in the back of your mind one day that there's something else out there that can kind of, bring the best of both worlds together, right? Where you can still have some autonomy, over the way that you work, uh, but you can also have support, from other people, and you can work with other people. You can choose who you work with. Typically, in a worker cooperative, um, the new members have to be approved by everyone, and typically it's unanimous, right? So you're really getting to choose and decide the process. And is this new person aligned with our goals, right? Are they going to represent us? Are they going to be a good fit? So you're really able to choose who you get to work with, and you get to choose the work that you want to do, right? You don't have to do the things that you don't want to do. You can choose a little bit. And we see more and more co-ops coming up in like in tech fields, in lots of video game design ones too, because I feel like everything I hear is like that's a super tough and soul-sucking kind of industry. So the chance to work together and create a product that you really like are passionate about and believe in, and that idea too that you're working for yourself, right? You're working for yourself and the people that you work with, and you can really see that connection between the work that you're doing and the rewards that you're getting out of it, rather than just working for someone else's benefit. So I talk to a lot of people where that's a super rewarding thing. And I think
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. Like people don't learn about it and don't even know that's an option. So if everyone today just knows somewhere now in the back of your mind, there's something I remember something about cooperatives and that you might be able to use one day, then that's fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also feel like as you said before, like everyone in the cooperative helps each other. And so like especially important in creative fields. Like you said how it's also becoming more popular with video game
Yeah.
companies and stuff like that, right? Like I feel like I feel like a lot of like the general like idea of like doing something entertainment related is like, oh, you're gonna, put your heart and soul into your like projects and whatever, but then like the companies are gonna, take advantage of you and it's gonna like the industry like sucks. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure part of it is kind of like that. But yeah, like knowing that there's cooperatives out there like that are also trying to like, make the working conditions like better or,
Mhm.
making the experience like a better overall experience, I think is pretty comforting.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Um, I think it's really, the big thing that I always think about with cooperatives is just, to me, it's a really empowering business model. And that's really important to me. I've worked for big soul-sucking companies in the past and not been super happy about it. And I had no idea what cooperatives were for, before whatever, 13 years ago. But um, uh, now I really see kind of the other side of it, right? And I talk to people every single day that are members of cooperatives, and yeah, it can sometimes be hard, right? And there's a learning curve, and sometimes it's tough to work with a group of people for sure. But there's lots of benefits to it. Um, and that's why too, in many countries around the world, cooperatives are like the main business model. It's like here, if you know about cooperatives, people are surprised, like, oh, I can't believe it, right? Where other countries in the world, it's like, you don't know what cooperatives are like, that's the business model. And often it's because there's conditions and situations where you have to work together, right? That's the only way that you're really going to succeed and be successful. So, I mean, working cooperatively in any way, whether it's formally or informally, I mean, it works, right? If you're willing to put the work in, um, with other people, then it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've proven for thousands of years, right, that things work when you work together and work collectively. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally think so as well. I mean, I hope everyone else has some questions, but I want to ask another one. So, since you've had like so much experience, you've had a long like,
Yeah.
experience within the cooperative like this area, right?
Mhm.
So, I was wondering if you had any like specific experiences or um you've gone through like something that you thought really like changed your like idea of how cooperatives work? Or like, do you have any spec experiences that you think were like really, really important or interesting that you could share with us?
Oh, Vanessa, I don't think we have enough time for that. I would say overall, I would say really like just when I first realized that, because I worked for a credit union for about a year or so before I really understood what a credit union was and that it was a cooperative. And I just kind of so happened to um, get some insight into that was, and it just completely flipped the way I thought about things because I just really didn't know that there was another kind of business model out there. And in a way, I wasn't surprised because when I was working there, I could see that it was different, and I could see the relationship that I had with, our customers, our clients was different from other service industries that I'd worked in before. And I could see the way we thought about our members, like our account holders, our customers, was totally different. Um, and then I worked for Gailey Foods. And again, that was a fantastic experience. And to see that like a business that started with, maybe like 50 farmers is now over 1,300. They're this huge corporation, but they've never lost touch with their roots. And I saw over and over again like their commitment to quality, like the real true commitment to quality and pride that everybody took. Everybody really had a sense of ownership over it. And the fact that the farmers, like there's farmers in my area, probably all of you have farmers around you somewhere that are members of Gay. So when you're buying Gay products, that's really going right to the people in your communities. And made me feel more connected to kind of where my food was coming from and and sort of understand that this big huge company could operate but still not lose sight of community, the importance of community. I worked at their museum and cooperative education center in Elmer, and like they bought that mu a dairy museum just because they were so proud of their dairy heritage that they wanted to buy this museum and this beautiful property. And they just ran it. They never made any money from it, and they still don't, I think. But they just did it because it was the right thing to do, right? And so that really made an impression on me. And just like every single day, with every time I hear a story, every single co-op has this amazing story of starting up because every single co-op starts with a group of people. It's just people and a story and a need that they're looking to fulfill. So I mean, just the countless amount of amazing, inspiring stories I hear in the co-op sector is just amazing. And, things that you would never think could be possible be made possible through co-ops. And um, yeah, so lo lots of stories of inspiration and lots of stories of people empowering themselves and creating their own destiny and their own fate, I guess you could say, manifesting that for themselves through working together. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like it's so important to, bring back to the community or like, try to connect with other people within it. I think it's also like especially important, as a musician or like within the music industry as well, because, if you're in a band, you have to work with all your band members. But yeah, it's not just that. Like, if you're recording something, you have to work with your producer, your manager, the recording audio people. And then with the audience as well, you're like connecting to them through your music, right? And so like, yeah, community I think is a pretty big and important aspect of this industry as well. And speaking of like music co-ops or just like co-ops in general, do you have any recommendations for like resources on how to find these co-ops or like how
Oh,
to access them?
So what I can do, Vanessa, is I'll send you the slide deck and then so you'll have the names of some of these ones that we talked about. And then what I can do is send you a list we have a list of co-ops in Ontario. And then I also have a list because I actually have a music teacher that's a friend of mine. So no matter, he switched schools a couple times, but no matter what, he always has me in to talk to his music classes each semester. So I think I have a pretty decent list of examples of music co-ops. So I can definitely share that with you, and then you can pass it along to everyone here, and at least kind of point you in the right direction of where you can look um, to learn more um, about music co-ops specifically. Um, yeah, because there's lots to learn and lots of co-ops in the arts as well. There's a ton of cooperative art galleries as well. And I know there's a couple in my area. And again, like, you look at and I'm like an amateur artist, I guess, a bit myself, but like I've shown in some galleries and I know that, if I make 30%, like I'm pretty happy about that. But in a cooperative gallery, you show your work and you're not giving them 70%, you're keeping 70%, right? Because the idea is you might have 20 artists that all own this gallery together, or they move in and out of membership, but they're sharing the cost 20 ways, right? Of all the utilities and the administration and the marketing and promotion. And, they're coming up with ways to make sure everybody is showcased fairly, right? And the gallery reflects, the vibe and the spirit and the values of the people that work there. So even just looking at it, and music is the same way, right? It's just looking at it from just even a purely practical perspective, it makes a lot of sense that way too. And like you said, you're building a community because, somebody's coming to that art gallery because there's a show. Now you have this whole network of other artists, right, that are promoting with you and reaching their networks. So in the same way that you might hope that for music events and things like that, you can do it as well in art. So it really that same principle kind of translates all different sectors and industries. So
Yeah, I definitely agree.
mhm.
And yeah, like the resources I feel like would be really helpful, especially since, yeah, as we talked before, co-ops aren't really discussed, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I would say too that if there's a co-op that interests you, like do not I know it's hard to just reach out to some random public, like just do it. Just reach out, send them an email or whatever. People in the co-op sector are different. They are so nice and so lovely and so welcoming. They'll share information. So, contacting someone to ask questions, I would highly encourage that and see if they'll share their experience with you or best practices or ideas or how they got there, their journey, anything like that. I remember when I worked at the credit union, um, I was with a class and there was a couple kids and they were creating their own co-ops and they created a co-op on skateboarding. So I was in 4 hours away from a skateboard co-op, a cooperative skateboard shop. I called them and they literally said, "When do you want someone there?" So I said, "Will you come and talk to these kids?" And so the guy drove 4 hours and he actually having to go to a funeral. So he went to the funeral, drove all night, slept for a couple hours in the parking lot, just so he could go in for an hour and just talk to these kids. It was like such a beautiful experience, and I think that's not unique in the co-op sector. Like everybody's just super welcoming, um, and generous of spirit, I think. So don't be afraid to reach out if there's a co-op that interests you or resonates with you. Would be my advice.
That sounds like a crazy, crazy thing to do, but I'm so glad, people like that are out there, and they're
It,
like willing to talk as well.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think that's it for me for questions. Does anyone else have any questions they would like to be answered? You can raise your hand or you can also put in the chat. If not, I think that's it for today. Let's all just give Michelle a warm round of applause. And thank you so much for, taking the time out of your day to speaking to us about this really important topic.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I hope the rest of you have a amazing summer. And thank you so much to everyone for your questions and for your insight. And like I said, I'll send you some resources after. And if you ever have any questions, then please reach out to us. I'm more than happy to help. We have lots of tools and resources. So if you're ever at a point where you're thinking maybe the co-op model might be a good fit, or you're interested, you need information, we're here to help you through that process. Or if you have any questions or anything, always happy to help. So yeah, please feel free to reach out if there's anything we can do to support.
And since you said to reach out, how can we reach you by?
Oh, here, do you want me to put my email in the chat? And
Yeah,
my I'll make
that would
sure
be
my
helpful.
yeah, I'll make sure my email is on the slide deck as well. And you can find my information and my email on our website as well, which is that ontario.coop. So you can find me there as well.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, have an amazing summer, like I said, and best of luck on your musical journeys with everything. Thank you.